create your value scales for your value practice worksheet in 8th grade. In the past, you might remember creating simpler value scales such as this one, where they're just going from light to dark and you're just shading it in. Now that you're in 8th grade, we're going to get a little bit more complicated, and we're going to still be going from light to dark for your value scale, but we are now going to be creating the lights and the darks based on patterns. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we can jump into that, we first need to make sure that we understand all of the vocabulary. That vocabulary will be on your unit quizzes. So, the most important vocab word for this is just the word value. Value means the lights and the darks of your drawing. It's just a fancy way to say that. When you put the lights and the darks in order, like you see here, oftentimes we'll number it. We call that a value scale. So we're actually going to be creating some different value scales today. These are really important whenever you're drawing to reference to make sure that whatever value you're deciding to draw in certain areas actually matches your original image that you're trying to use. On the value scale, the lighter values are what's called the highlights. That's another important term. The darker values are what's called the shadows. Alright, now we're ready to go ahead and start our first patterned value scale. Our first pattern that we're going to use is what's called hatching. Hatching is just the most simple value pattern that you can use. It's just lines. You can have the lines go up and down, side to side, or diagonal. It's completely up to you. I like to start with the darkest value, which I number 6. And right here on the line where it says hatching, I'm going to begin filling this in. Now to make these lines appear dark, I'm not just shading it in dark. Instead, I'm making my lines very tight together, almost as tight as they can be to make it as dark as it can be, just like the 6 above it. Then, as I get lighter, I just slowly begin to space out my lines so that I can see a little bit of the white of the page, and the white of the page will create the illusion that it's getting lighter. So you notice as I get to 3, now they're getting even more spaced out. 2, I only am going to have a few lines because they're really spaced out, and then 1, I'm not going to have any lines because that's just the white of the page. Alright, there's my first value scale. Now I'm ready to move on to cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is very similar to hatching, only now instead of just doing lines one way, I am going to do lines the opposite way as well. So once again, starting with 6, trying to stay within my little box here to keep it neat, I'm going to go and make lines all the way through going one way, but now I'm going to go back and cross over them, hence the term cross-hatching. I'm going to space them out a little bit more as I get to 5, and then cross over it. A little bit more as I get to 4, that rhymes, cross over it. And keep going. Feel free to pause the video at any point if you need to take time to do this on your own. You do need to have this whole worksheet completed in order to get full credit. Okay? So there's my cross-hatching. Alright, so the last 2 value scales, as you see here, they say that it's your choice. You get to decide what you're going to put in here as the pattern to create your value scale. The first one suggests that you do some kind of line pattern. For example, here are some other value scales that people have created in the past. We see we've got cross-hatching and hatching are our basics, but this would be considered a line pattern because all you're doing is using line to create very purposeful scribbles, not just crazy scribbles. Zigzags would also be considered a line one. And this one is great down here. It's a combination of zigzags and hatching to create this really nice pattern. Try and decide how you can manipulate line to create your own line pattern. Then, once you're ready to move on, you can create some kind of shape value scale. This one down here is an example of a shape value scale where you're using little circles to be able to create a shape. Your shape can be simple like this, or it can be really complicated. It's completely up to you. Whatever designs you create in order to make your value scales, make sure that you're keeping the design very tight on the right for the darker values, and then you're spacing them out and making the designs bigger as you go to the lighter values in order to create that illusion of the value change. Also, make sure that you're being very creative. You're not just choosing a pattern that you think is going to be easy to complete this, because you're going to be choosing one of these two patterns to use on your final project, and you don't want to do something really simple and silly on your final project, because then you will not get very many creativity points. So make sure you really take time, pick some really nice patterns that you enjoy, and then fill this in. Once you're done with this whole area, you're ready to move on to our next video, where we're going to discuss how to begin drawing your bug.